Major support for these broadcasts is provided by New York Community Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chelsea Lighting, Capital One Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns, Gian Tomasi and Webster, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, the Wickoff Group, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, M&T Bank. Additional support is provided by Ackman Ziff Real Estate Group, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, Bruce Mosler, C.B. Richard Ellis, Colliers International New York, LLC, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, DDG Partners, Friedman LLP, Accountants and Advisors, Flushing Bank, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, Madison Realty Capital, Margolin Weiner and Evans, LLP, Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, Massey Knackle Realty Services, New Banks, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Sterling and Sterling, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, and these friends.
You know, there are songs, there's music, people remember. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can't forget Stagger Lee, you can't forget Lottie Miss Claudia, and you can't forget personality. And there's a man who's done all this. There's a man who's in 6 different Hall of Fames. There's a musician, a lyricist, a writer, and more important, my friend, Lloyd Price. I'm telling his life story today. Thanks for being here, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about the kid from Kenner, Louisiana. You were born in 1933, right?
That's right.
Okay, and you were telling me a small little family, what, 11?
Very small one. 8 boys and 3 girls.
Right, and your dad, what did Dad do?
My dad was a plumber, and he was a longshoreman. Was a longshoreman first, and then he went into his own business as a plumber when they started running the sewage through New Orleans.
And then Mom, she was an entrepreneur too, right?
Yes, my mother had a sandwich shop, but she only opened like from Thursday through Saturday, and she had fish sandwiches. And it was really good because during that time, any income at all was a help to the family because we had a real big family.
Now you told me, was it the quarter or the nickels that you had that part-time job when you were a kid?
Well, actually, it was 50 cents. They called it 4 bits.
Right.
The first job I had. Well, my real first job I had, Mike, was on an ice truck. I worked for
that's right. You told me.
I worked for a guy called Mr. Joe, and I was carrying 25 pounds of ice at 7.5, 8 years old. And I'd do that 2 hours in the morning before school. And everybody had to work to support the family. So I was the ice boy. And that was my first job.
And then what about the 2 bits?
Well, I got paid 4 bits. A quarter was 2 bits, and 50 cents was 4 bits. With him, I got 4 bits for doing the 2 hours in the morning on ice truck. The quarter, the 2 bits came when I was sweeping for a guy called Ike Santana there in Kenner. He had what they call a juke, and I'd sweep both sides of it, and he'd give me a quarter. Mostly on Monday mornings after the weekend. He had sawdust on the floor, spittoons and all that stuff. And this was one of the first places where I think I got hooked on music.
How'd that happen?
Well, sweeping this place, there was 2 sides to the place. It was a white side and a black side. You know what I'm talking about, back in the 48, 49. and the South was still, you could still hear Robert E. Lee coming through there.
Did you get 25 cents extra if you were on the black side of
Yeah,
this?
no. It was the same amount for sweeping. And one morning I was in there, he had gotten this new, well, we call it a jukebox. And I saw all these great lights. I don't know whether it was a Rockola or Wurlitzer, but I saw these lights, you know, it was turning. And at that time, there was only 10 records on a jukebox, called a nickel a play. And I'd put a nickel in there, or he'd put a nickel in there, and he'd ask me to dance. And I'd start dancing. And one day he put it in there, and I heard Lloyd Jordan with Caledonia. Caledonia, Caledonia, what make your big head so hard, Mop? Man, I thought that was the end of the world. What a great record I thought that was by Lloyd Jordan. Lloyd Jordan and his Temperley Five. And I started dancing, and I think from that time on, I knew what I was going to be doing the rest of my life.
You had this guy who's a pitchman for Maxwell House Coffee. You know,
Okie dokie Smith. This came about 2 years later. He was the first black jockey on the radio that we
Right, because what you and I said is everybody thought that Amos and Andy were black, but they were white.
That's right. Up until that point, we thought Amos and Andy was black because they was perpetrating a fraud as acting like black folks, you know, a Kingfisher, you know, so we thought they were black. But the first real black guy I heard on the radio was Okie dokie Smith. He was on for Maxwell House Coffee.
And he used to say what?
Lordy, Miss Claudie, eat your mother's homemade pies and drink Maxwell House coffee. And I snatched that little jewel out of the sentence, Lordy, Miss Claudie. I mean, that stuck right in my head.
So what happens next?
What happened next was I tried to write a song. You know, I'd never tried that before, but what got me interested in doing that, I was also trying to learn how to play music because I knew there was something I was supposed to do in music. I just felt that in my soul that I must do something in music. I need to get on that jukebox. So when I heard Okie dokie on the radio, and I kind of connected two together. If I get on the radio, I'd get on a jukebox. You know, so when I heard Lordy, Miss Claudie, my brother had given me two horns. He had given me a trumpet and a flugelhorn. But I was so small, I didn't have enough air, you know, to pump through those keys. So I said, well, I'll play piano. I tried to teach myself how to play piano. So I learned how to play an 8-bar blues. Separating the black keys and the white keys was easy. You know, there's a lot of sevens in there, so you just, without me having a whole lot of fingers, I would start playing triplets, you know, because Fats Domino had came on the scene and triplets had got very popular.
But at that time, Fats wasn't fat.
No, he was not. He was not Fats. He had one record called The Fat Man, and he fitted right in my scheme. I said, oh, I could play that, you know, because you just shake your hand. And so when Okie dokie, he had no real schedule, Mike, no real schedule. He'd be on the day for 20 minutes. You may not hear him for 2 days. And the next 2 days he'd come on at a different time, but it was always, Lordy, Miss Claudie, eat your mother's homemade pies and drink Maxwell House coffee. So I started learning and playing around with that. And we kids at that time, a lot of the new people today, the new kids think that rap started, you know, 30 years ago. Rap been here a long time because we used to just make up rhymes.
Rap started 62 years ago. From
way long time ago.
Right.
So we would make up rhymes just like the doo-wops did. Stand on the corner and everybody take a verse and do it. So I was just doing Lordy, Miss Claudie like that. I had no set pattern. Each time I sung it, it would be something different. So one Friday afternoon, I was in my mother's shop. Nobody was there but her and I. So I'm on the piano, banging away, Lordy, 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 Miss Claudie, girl, you sure look good to me. And I happened to turn around through the corner of my eyes, and I saw this big guy standing there. And I stopped. No, I didn't stop. I kept playing. But then I looked again. I thought the face was familiar, and it was Dave Bartholomew. Dave Bartholomew at that time had the biggest band in New Orleans. He was like the man.
So what was he going for a fish sandwich at your mother's?
He came in for a fish sandwich. You know, my mother had a reputation of making the best potato salad in Kenner. So they'd come in for that fried perch and the potato salad. And he said, well, no, don't stop, keep playing. So I played it. He said, play it again. I played it again. He said, you know, that could be a hit record. Had no idea what he was talking about. So I played it again for him. He said, you know what? The president of Specialty Records is coming to New Orleans. They had started recording young talent. The independents was begin to understand what record business was, that there was a money in it, you know what I mean? So Art Root had this big record with a guy called Percy Mayfield, Please Send Me Someone to Love. And he was expanding his record companies to be to the younger crowd because of that record. But he had never recorded any teenagers. So I was the first teenager.
But this was the first side. There were two sides to the record.
Yes, right.
Okay,
I had no idea.
Today, if they watch my show, they're going to say, what is a record? You know? Okay. But there were two sides to the record, right?
That's right. And there was big records, 78s. So if you took an album home, you need a truck that carried, because it was 12 78s in a pack.
Now, so from the Lottie Miss Cloudy, you know, the Okie Dokie Man, you came out with the lyrics for this song.
That's right.
And what was on the flip side, as they would say?
Well, when I did Lord and Miss Claudie, I never heard the playback or nothing like that.
Until you were in your father's car, right?
That's right.
What happened? Tell me that.
My brother and I was in a car, and Okie Dokie Smith said, Lord and Miss Claudie, I done played this record, played it so much it's getting white. You know, them records from the needle, they would get white, and you need new needles. So he said, I'm gonna play it one more time today. It's a young boy from Kenner, Louisiana, Lloyd Price, and Lord and Miss Claudie. And I heard, well, what really happened? Let me tell you this, Mike. When I went down to record the song, Fats Domino was in the studio. So Dave Bartholomew had him to play that great introduction on Lord and Miss Claudie on the piano. There's never been nobody that ever played it like him. I don't think he had ever played it like that again. That great piano roll they did on the introduction in Lord and Miss Claudie.
How well did Lord and Miss Claudie do? I mean, you were 17 years of age at this time, right?
That's right. Art Root wrote a book. He still lives. He's 93 years old. The guy who owns Specialty Records. He wrote in his book about 5 years ago, Lord and Miss Claudie was the first million-selling record in America, ever. It's been recorded by every rock and roller who, from the Beatles to Elvis on down, Fats Domino, on James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Tommy Rowe.
But what's interesting that a lot of people in your profession, we're not sure what the profession is. No, in your profession, were not smart enough to own the records. I mean, you've owned your own records. You own your music. You own them. You went into the production business, right?
Yes, I did. Well, that happened after I got drafted. My music started to integrate the South. So the draft board called me in and said that the chairman of the Armed Service Committee said I had to go in the Army. I had to go in the military, which I thought was very strange because I had 4 brothers in there.
Right, and you weren't supposed to have that many siblings.
I had 5. My 5th brother, the one who gave me the horns, he couldn't even volunteer to go in the Army, so he was in the Coast Guards. The Coast Guards was different from the Armed Service. So I thought it was strange that they had to draft me in. It was because of my music. I was integrating the South. So they took me on in the Army and thought that that'd knock me off, I guess. But I managed to survive that. And sorry, Mike.
No. So you survived that. You finished the Army, and then what happens with ABC Records?
ABC, when I came out, I went in my own music business. Formed my first record company, KRC Records. And when I got out of the Army, everybody...
One of your first clients on KRC Records was, what's his name? A main guy.
Lloyd Price.
No, besides Lloyd Price. You remember there was, forgot who I read. It was one of the...
Not on KRC. You talk about Wilson Pickett.
Wilson Pickett, right? Later
Yeah,
on,
he was on Double L. That was my second
your
label.
second label.
Yeah.
But you had a deal with ABC, right?
Yeah, ABC Paramount. ABC and Paramount Pictures, ABC Network and Paramount Pictures had just merged. And they went into the music business, the record business. And they had a record label called Paramount, ABC Paramount. And they didn't have nobody like me. So with Just Because, the first song I wrote after coming out of the Army was a smash, but it was on my label. My cousin, who was Larry Williams and my valet and chauffeur, went to Art Root. I had bought my contract back from Specialty Records. How I did that, being in special service in the Army, I was assigned to the Adjutant General.
Right, you told me you gained a lot of insight because of the guys from the Army.
That's right, the young lawyers. And they said, listen, music business is about publishing. You should own all your songs and stuff like that. I had no idea what I was doing, but coming out of the Army, they equipped me about songs and how to go about the process of getting them for myself. So when I did Just Because, ABC didn't have this kind of music. They had Edie Gomez and Steve Lawrence, Rosemary Clooney. They had one black guy up there, Johnny Nash. And Johnny Nash was on Arthur Godfrey TV show. It was one of the biggest shows during that period. But they didn't have this kind of music. So Larry Williams, who was my cousin and valet, he had went to California and told Art Root he wrote the song. So Art Root at that time, Specialty Records, was the biggest rhythm and blues rock and roll record company that recorded black artists. So he called me and said, Lloyd, we are going to cover you because that's my song. Larry Williams wrote that song. Complete double cross between Art Root and Larry Williams. So I had to go to ABC. Fred Foster came to me and said, give us that record. We can protect you from Art Root. So that's what happened with my first record.
And you got royalties. Now, since we only have 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and there's so much to it. Okay, so Stagger Lee, Personality, but Personality, which has been, how many languages has that been?
17.
17.
17 different languages, been recorded 169 times.
And by how many, I mean, so many...
Just you name them. I mean, everybody from, I don't know if Frank did it, but all the big pop stars, every TV show, commercials, General Motors, Fiat.
Let's take like a minute. Do the opening of Personality.
Well, everybody has a personality, Mike.
So
you walk with it, and it's 'cause you've got personality, walk personality, talk with personality, smile with personality, charm with personality, love personality. Plus you got a great big heart. So over and over, whoa, I'll be a fool for you. Now over and over, what more can I do? Everybody, 'cause you've got a personality.
Okay. So then you come to New York, right?
Yes.
You come to New York in the late 50s.
58, 59.
And let's talk about the years after that, 58 and going on, you know?
Well, the years after that, I wrote this song, and ABC only had that one song. I wrote a song called You Need Love. You Need Love. I thought it was going to be the greatest song in the world. I was so impressed with Clyde McPhatter. He was such a great writer. I wanted to write like Clyde McPhatter, so I wrote this song, You Need Love. Called Sam Clark, who was the president of ABC, and said, Sam, I have a #1 song for you, just like it's going to be bigger than Just Because. He asked me to come to New York. I went to New York, played it for him. I said, I want the Ray Charles singers. I want a white choir, I want strings, and a big horn. And he got all that for me, and Don Costa was my arranger.
Don Costa, Frank Sinatra's man.
That's right. He wrote this song, and I'm giving him the licks, how to go on this song. I'm thinking it's a great song. So you need a B-side. So I said, I got a B-side. Well, now I'm a veteran who I had used this song in Korea where I entertained the generals, the field grade officers. It was called Stagger Lee. It was a mini play. That's what it was. So I said, I got a B-side. I just figured it was a throwaway. So I sat at the piano, I started playing it for him. And the night was clear. He thought that was funny because I said the night was clear. You know, the night was clear and the moon was yellow and the leaves came tumbling down. Wop, wop, wop. And that big, nice chorus, you know, he said, he laughed, he fell on the floor laughing. Oh, you're not going to put that on the back of this record. I said, yes, I am. I said, this is a great song. I use it in Korea. The soldiers loved it, so I'm going to put it on the back of this record. One take. And I got to call Larry Newton, the general manager of ABC, called me up and said, Lloyd, I got a call from Spokane, Washington. They said, we're on the wrong side of the record. You Need Love is not the hit. Stagger Lee is the hit. And I just would not let them turn that record over. So finally, they convinced me to turn the record over. We did. And one afternoon, 200,000 records between 1 and 4. So I said, well, maybe we got to go with Stagger Lee. Stagger Lee wound up being #1 for 7 weeks. And I think the end sales at ABC was 3.5 million records. They've sold a lot since then. But that song has been recorded altogether 429 times.
Lloyd Price Turntable. Tell me about that.
Lloyd Price Turntable. My objective, I wanted to have somewhere to house the band. So I took the old Birdland at 52nd and Broadway and I stripped the whole place, renovated, and made it the Lloyd Price Turntable to get the rhythm and blues folks from across 110th Street. The whole objective was to bring them downtown. I did, because the Copa, Cabana, the Basin Street East, the Palladium, none of these clubs would bring the black acts downtown. So when I had James Brown line them up around the corner on Broadway at 52nd, at 52nd and Broadway, everybody started bringing the acts downtown.
So you had James Brown taking the crowd around the turntable, and I think it was written down that Nelson Rockefeller gave you the liquor license, right?
Yes, he did. Well, Hugh Hefner hadn't gotten a license for the Playboy Club. This was in 1968. I knew Percy Sutton. So Ralph Cooper, who was an uptown disc jockey, knew that I hadn't gotten my license. I was there sitting a year waiting on a license because you had to have the SLA, the cabaret. You had to have a double license to get approved. Now I've renovated the place. I'm paying rent, sitting there a year. Ralph Cooper said, Lloyd, Percy Sutton gonna be with Rockefeller at the Americana tonight, having dinner. Go over there and talk to the governor. So that was right down my alley. So about 7 o'clock, I got the call that Percy Sutton was in the hotel at the Americana with the governor. So I went over there. Hey, Percy, how you doing? And he said, I want you to meet the governor, Governor Rockefeller and his wife. He had just married this new wife. So I met them, and so I told her, I said, Governor, I've been sitting around there. I'm trying to open a club, on Broadway. I've been sitting there for a whole year paying rent. And I don't know, I just got to have my SLA license. I'm cleaner than the Pope. Everything, I said, there's nothing wrong with me. Why am I waiting on a license? So, he laughed, and I have the photograph of he and I. He laughed. He said, he said something to me. And I
got it. Let's move on. You go to Africa, and you're involved. People know the famous Don King. But in reality, Don King's partner, the man who promoted the Thriller in Manila with Ali and Fraser, was you.
Yeah, well, Don and I had been friends forever. We've been
from
friends,
Cleveland.
Yeah, for 50 years. So Don, everybody got to start somewhere. So by my popularity, and I introduced Don to everybody I knew, I introduced him. And Ali, I had known Ali since he was 18 years old. So I introduced Don to Ali on the telephone by having Ali to sing happy birthday to his daughter. She was 5 years old, her 5th birthday. And so Don said, man, let me say hello to the champ. Man, he wasn't the champ then. And we'd have this song, 3 Steps to the Crown. So we had to fight Sonny Liston's and Doug Jones and Joe Frazier. So when Ali met Don, we had a charity for a little girl who had got raped in Cleveland. I had Johnny Nash tried to get Sly Stone, all the big artists at that time, because they all knew me, and I would introduce him to Don. So we walked. He's a hard-working guy. I got to tell you that, because he just kept saying, "Man, make me big, make me big."
Okay, I got to move on.
Okay.
So you did that. Then, you lived in Africa. You came back, and then you were in the affordable housing. You built 42 houses.
Yeah, up at 184th and Valentine. I put a partnership, the Lloyd Price Development Corporation, and partnerships with the New York City Partnership. And they gave me 50,000 square feet. And I went on and built 42 houses, top and bottom, up on 184th and Valentine. That whole circle up there, I built it through my developing corporation. I wanted to do things, because I didn't know whether or not I was going back in the show business. So I wanted to learn different things. I'm always eager to learn different things.
With like 2 minutes left, I got to make sure that, I remind everybody in 1998, they made the right decision by putting you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Okay. And you're also in the Bowling Hall of Fame, but that's separately.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Then you have the Lloyd Price food products.
Lloyd Price Icon Foods.
Right.
Our brand is Lord and Miss Claudie.
Right.
We figured it's been on the air maybe 700 million times by all the different artists around the world who recorded. We got Lord and Miss Claudie sweet potato cookies. Walmart, we're in Walmart, 486 supercenters.
Now, in addition to that, then the latest thing over here, if we got to talk, is you recently you wrote a book a couple years ago, and you released another new CD recently.
I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling good. And then, in addition to that, let's talk about the play that's going to come out eventually with Phil Ramone.
Yeah, with Phil Ramone. Phil Ramone is just a great producer. He's produced Sinatra, Barbra Streisand, Paul Simon. He's our musical guy on the Lloyd Price musical. They're going to do my life story called Lord and Miss Claudie, the true king of the 50s. And it's going to, all the things that I've done, Mike, will be inside the script to make the musical.
Including the story about New Orleans.
Including the story about New Orleans.
Right.
And of course, you can go up to LloydPriceMusic.com and you can see most of it up there of what we're going to do. And of course, the new album is up there as well at LloydPriceMusic.com.
And they can also go to Lord and Miss Claudie.
LloydandMissClaudie.com and also Amazon.com.
Right. And what was the book, the name of the book, Lloyd?
The True King of the 50s. Lord and Miss Claudie, the true king of the 50s.
So, writer, producer, director, promoter, bowler, okay? You've had an interesting life, and it's continuing on, right, baby?
Well, it's continuing on, Mike. Every day you wake up, you got to be motivated to do something. And I'm motivated with new things happening in my life. I mean, I guess that's what life is about. Doing things different, finding something new to do every day.
And I'm so happy that I got Mr. Personality on my show, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure's all mine.